975, Chapter 231. Adequate notice of this regular meeting of the Board of Adjustment of the Township of Franklin has been provided.
Mr. Betterbid.
Here.
Ms. Graham.
Here.
Mr. Johnson. Mr. McCracken.
Here.
Mr. Rich.
Here.
Mr. Shepherd. Mr. Caldwell.
Here.
Mr. Rosenthal.
Here.
Mr. Reese.
Here.
Ms. Pagano.
Here.
Chairman Thomas.
Here. Minutes for the regular meeting, October 15th, 2015. If there are no corrections, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Betterbid.
Yes.
Ms. Graham.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson. Mr. Kraken.
Yes.
Mr. Rich.
Yes.
Mr. Reese.
Yes.
Ms. Pagano.
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes. Resolution, Mattson, ZBA 15-000-14.
Move it.
Second.
Ms. Graham.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson. Mr. McCracken.
Yes.
Mr. Rich.
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal.
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes. Bailey, ZBA 15-000-16.
Move it.
Second.
Ms. Graham.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson. Ms. McCracken.
Yes.
Mr. Rich. Oh,
Yes.
here, Mr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal.
Yes.
Mr. Reese.
Yep.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes. Okay, vouchers. November retainer, 865.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Dunbar Homes versus the Zoning Board of Adjustment, January 15 to August 15th, $7,150.31.
Move it.
Move it.
All right, are we able to do all of them together?
Yes, you can do them all together.
Then we'll move, also Dunbar Homes, May to December 14th, $88,152.08. Luck Resolution, 105. Richer Group Resolution, 120.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Hearings, all three on the agenda should be heard. First one would be Anthony Wojcicki, ZBA 15-000-20. This is a hardship variance in which the applicant is removing an existing porch and rebuilding a porch with a roof at 3 Radio Court, Somerset, Block 259, lots 5 through 13 in the R20 zone.
Okay, good evening. Will you both be speaking or just one of you? Okay, sir, if you raise your right hand for me, solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Okay, you will need to speak in the mic. Just make sure it's on, give it a tap.
While he's doing that, Mr. Chairman, maybe I very briefly, this is the
Two
epitome
buttons,
of
like on the bottom too.
an application which normally only takes a few minutes. There's two variances. What they're doing is they're replacing their front porch, and instead of keeping the front porch without having a roof, they're putting the roof. And because they're putting the roof on, technically now, that porch with the roof will not meet the setback like it did before. They are supposed to have a 35-foot setback. The existing porch with the house is 13.9. Because they're putting the roof, it's only going to be 7. They also need one existing variance for the shed in the back that's been there for years. It's 25 feet, and it's 7.9 feet. Last evening, or was it, no, Monday? When did you go before that? Tuesday, yeah, whatever day. They went before the Historic Commission. The Historic Commission took no exception and had no issue with this proposal.
Okay, with this variance, it's because of the overhang?
Yeah, it's because they have a porch, and now they want to put a porch, and obviously most people now want to be out of the rain, so they're putting a cover over the porch, and technically now steps can be within the setback, but the covered porch can't be, so they need the technical
So that's
variance.
an additional structure as opposed to,
Exactly. We consider it a structure versus just a way in and out of the house,
Okay.
exactly.
Does that essentially capture the essence of what you're trying, what you're asking?
Yes.
into the mic.
Yes, it does.
Is there any other information that you want to add to that?
No.
Go, Board, any,
Seems pretty straightforward. I move it.
Second.
poll the board?
Mr. Betterbid?
Yes.
Wait a second.
Oh, we didn't open it to the
Sorry.
public. Yep, sorry.
A little too quick.
You're too fast.
We will open to the public. If there is anyone who has a question or a comment or a statement concerning this application, this is the time. Looks like we're okay there, so we'll close. We have a motion on the floor, we have a second, and if there's no discussion, you can poll the board.
Mr. Betterbid,
Yes.
Ms. Grumman,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson. Why do I keep calling him? He's not here. Mr. McCracken?
Yes.
Mr. Rich?
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Yes.
Chairman Thomas?
Yes, good luck with it.
I guess
Thank
that
you
was
very
tough.
much.
Keep calling him. He's not here.
Okay, 150 Pierce Street, ZBA 15-00011. Use variance with a site plan in which the applicant's proposing to convert a portion of a building into a charter school at 150 Pierce Street, Somerset, Block 468.08, Lot 2.02, in the M2 zone. This was carried from October 15th.
Pete, can you have them change that a little bit to the side? It's blocking the podium and the public want to see it. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter Lanford appearing on behalf of the applicant. This is an application for a use variance and site plan approval for the relocation of the Thomas Edison Charter School from its present location to 150 Pierce Street. The applicant is going to be a tenant in the building, which was formerly Best Foods, and has been vacant now for a number of years. They're going to be leasing a portion of that building of approximately 60,000 square feet. This evening, I have 5 witnesses that I intend to call. All of them should be somewhat brief, and I think probably the best way to do this, if it's okay with the chairman, is that I present all of the testimony, because I think this board has been through charter schools before. I've presented charter school applications. I think once I get through all of my witnesses, I probably will have covered many of the questions that the board normally has asked in the previous application. So if I can do it that way, I think we probably can move the evening along a little bit quicker.
Pete, I'm going to be real concerned about the traffic.
We have that issue covered with 2 witnesses.
Good, okay.
So we'll get to all of that.
But I think we can do it the way you're suggesting.
Right. And just for the record, I do have 2 representatives of the school, the principal and the security officer, who deals with the current traffic at its present location, plus the traffic at the new location. I do have the architect, the site engineer, and a planner. So those are the witnesses that I will be calling. And I am going to start this evening by calling Mr. Feldman.
Okay, good evening. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And your name for the record?
David H. Feldman, Feldman, principal of Feldman and Feldman Architects, Colts Neck, New Jersey.
Thanks.
Mr. Feldman, you can sit down. You are a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey.
I am.
Can you give the board the benefit of your professional background and your educational background?
Yeah, I have a Bachelor of Architecture from Temple University. It's a 5-year architecture degree. I'm licensed in the state of New Jersey as a registered architect, as well as probably about 8 to 9 other states.
I'm a member of the AIA, and I've appeared before zoning boards, planning boards in the state of New Jersey.
Thank you. Mr. Feldman, you prepared the plans for the renovation of the interior of the building for the charter school, is that correct?
That is.
Okay, and how big is the building in its entirety?
The building in its entirety is roughly 120 to 130,000 square feet.
Okay, and as I stated in my opening, the charter school will be leasing approximately 60,000 square feet, is that correct?
That is correct.
Are you also involved with respect to the other half of the building?
We were the architects that did the tenant fit out for the first floor.
Okay, and who will be occupying the first floor and the other half of the building?
That's a company called FarmScript, and basically it's a distribution center.
Okay, and what's the status of that project?
We are actually in the process of applying for a TCO, temporary certificate of occupancy.
Okay. Now, on the board that we have to our left are the drawings that were submitted in conjunction with this application. Is that correct?
Yes, they are.
Okay, can we mark that as A1, Mr. Bradshaw?
Yes.
Now, the 60,000 square feet that will be rented and occupied by the charter school, is that on one story or two stories?
The majority of the space is on the second floor. The gymnasium, which will occur on the first floor, is a two-story space.
Okay. Can you take the board through the plans of what the fit-out will be?
Yes. Basically, on the southwest corner is going to, on the first floor, the southwest corner of the building is going to be the main entrance to the building. At that location, there's a staircase that goes up to the second floor, as well as an elevator access for ADA compliance to the second floor. Once you get up to the second floor, basically, the charter school will be occupying the entire space. There's some office space in conjunction with some classrooms. A total of 39 classrooms are proposed. Currently, they have grades K through 7. Next year, they'll have K through 8, which will account for, they run basically dual classes, so they'll account for roughly 18 classrooms. The additional classrooms are specialty rooms, science labs, music, arts, language, and any overflow that they may need.
What do you
pertaining
mean
to
by
that.
dual classes?
They typically have two classes per grade. So 2 kindergarten classes, 2 first grade
Okay.
classes, so on and so forth.
Okay. And all of the educational activity will be on the second floor?
All of the educational activity, as well as the cafeteria and the auditorium, occurs on the second floor.
Okay, and on the first floor, what occurs?
On the first floor, which has access from the second floor, is where the gymnasium will occur.
Okay, and that is the only activity that the school will conduct on the first floor?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, you indicated that the other half of the building is going to be leased by another tenant. Is there a way, or is there any way that these two uses can access each other?
Not in the design. The only way that the two will come together is at one emergency exit, if and when that's ever needed. And
In the event of a fire or something of that nature?
yes, that is correct.
Okay. Other than that, all of the access to the charter school is through their one entrance that you described on the one side of the building, is that correct?
Yes, and in fact, the access to FarmScript basically really occurs at the total opposite, meaning that in the southeast corner of the building is where the school enters. On the southwest corner is where employees enter the first floor for FarmScript, as well as in the north front of the building.
Okay, and in preparing the plans for form script, are there ways that access is limited to the form script site?
Yeah, they're just as concerned with security, obviously, for what they do, that there is a distinct, there's fob swipes that occur at all their exit and entrances. All their doors are alarmed if one of the doors should open or be breached.
Okay, and what security measures are being put in place for the school?
Basically similar. The school, again, is just as concerned. They do have 3 access points or 3 exits from the building. All 3 will be as well alarmed. The main entrance, which occurs again on the southeast corner, and then 2 additional emergency exits.
And the main entrance is the focal point of the school. The other exits or entrances are basically emergency only.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Any board questions?
What does Farm Script do again?
They're a distribution center for medication. So what they do is they receive pharmaceuticals in bulk. They then break it down and then distribute it out.
Okay.
Other questions?
One question, Mr. Chairman. Are there any particular code requirements that would need to be imposed when you have within one building, a light manufacturing use and an educational use, other than egress, which you've mentioned? Any other, like fire separation or anything else along those lines?
The building is constructed of a concrete floor between the 2 floors, and we will meet all the fire requirements.
Okay. Is
Any
it-
other
Is
questions?
the building sprinklered?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I guess you can go to the next witness.
Okay. Mr. Yildiz?
Sir, if you raise your right hand, you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Could you spell your last name for me?
Yıldız, Y-I-L-D-I-Z.
Mr. Yildiz, you can have a seat.
Okay.
Mr. Yildiz, you are the principal of the school?
Yes. I do.
Okay. And where is the school currently located?
92 Cortellis Lane, Somerset.
Okay, and how long have you been at that site?
This is our 3rd year.
And before that, where were you located?
17 Schoolhouse Road for 1 year.
Okay. And what grades does the Thomas Edison School cover at the present time?
Right now, K through 7.
Okay, and you received a charter from the state of New Jersey, is that correct?
Yes, for K through 8.
For K through 8. So next year, when the 7th grade class moves on, you will be at
Yes.
full capacity at K
Yes,
through 8.
K through 8.
And is your charter limited as to the number of students that you can have in the school?
Yes.
And what is that number?
Currently or will be?
No, your total that is allowed.
K through 8, 396.
Okay. And currently, since you don't have an 8th grade, you're under that number?
Yes, 348.
You're at 348 at the present time. Now, how do the children arrive to school?
They usually come with bus.
Okay, and how many buses do you have?
We have 5 for Franklin Township, 1 with North Brunswick.
I'm sorry.
You got to talk louder.
5 for Franklin Township, 1 for North Brunswick.
Okay, 6 buses?
Yes.
Okay, and do you also have some parents who bring their children to school?
Yes.
And
How many of those?
Usually 70 to 80% comes with bus, 20 to 30% comes with the pickups, drops off with the parents.
Okay, so how many vehicles are we looking at?
wait,
You'll cover
we'll get to that.
Okay.
What are the school hours?
7:55 to 45,
Okay, and Monday through Friday?
Monday to Friday.
And are there any after-school activities that take place?
Yes, we do.
What kind of after-school activities do you have?
We have clubs, different variety of clubs, including robotics, science Olympiad, band, drama club, like maybe around 15 to 20 different kinds of clubs we have.
Okay, when school lets out, you said it lets out at 2:45 every day?
Yes.
Okay. What percentage of the students leave at 2:45? What percentage of the students stay around for the clubs?
90%, we can say, they go with bus at 2:45, but very few, 10% picks up, and the rest usually stays for clubs.
Okay, and if students stay for the clubs, do they get bused after that, or do their parents have to pick them up?
Pick them up at 4 o'clock.
Okay, and at 4 o'clock, everything is done at the site?
Yes.
Okay. And other than having physical education, do you have any interscholastic athletic events?
No, we don't.
Okay, and you don't envision having them in the future?
Currently, no.
No, okay, thank you. Do you have any events that take place in the evening, such as back-to-school nights, plays, or things of that?
Back to school nights, yes.
Okay, and do you have everybody coming in one night, or do you?
We split into different nights. We try to do per night 2 grades, so we don't get too much crowded.
Okay, and at your present location at Cortelyou Lane, the parking situation that you have there, is it better or worse than what we're going to have at the new location?
It's worse because we don't have too many parking lot, but we still can't manage right now.
Okay.
Can you just go over the back-to-school night again? You guys went through that so quickly.
He,
How many, you split up, so it's 2 grades
Let's say
each night?
3. We do 3 nights, 3 to 4 nights. It depends on the K through 1 night, second and third grade 1 night. We try to do split into different nights so we don't get too much crowded in the parking lot.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I have no further questions of this witness.
Is the back-to-school night the only nighttime event? There were questions about plays, for example, or other events. Are there other events that would take place in the evening?
The back to school night, we did winter concert, actually, yeah, did something else different.
And did you have that at the school or at another?
Again, we try to split into different nights so we don't have crowded. Depending on the situation, we moved back to school night to 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, so we can move around. We don't have to have it like 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock. We can move around 4 to 5.
Go back to your winter concert.
Yes.
Is that a one night only, or do you have that broken up over?
Right now,
there?
this year we will have 2 nights.
Okay, again, to handle
Yes.
the parking.
Because the arrival of the kids into the stage is different, so the pickup and drop off of the kids and traffic is totally different.
Okay.
timing.
Are there any other programs besides this winter concert and the back-to-school night?
No.
What time are the winter concerts? What time?
With winter concert, I remember 6 p.m.
To what?
6 to 7, 1 night. 1 hour, I'm sorry.
No activities on the weekend?
Weekend, Saturday mornings only.
And are those clubs or?
Saturday tutorings and
Tutoring.
robotics and clubs.
And how many kids participate in that?
On Saturdays?
Yeah.
On Saturdays, we have around 40 to 50 kids.
So on Saturdays, there
In the morning
be-
till noon o'clock.
Okay, a fair amount of traffic going in and out?
No, we don't have, because
For
it's
40
9
to
to
50
12:30.
kids?
Yes, 40 to 50.
But the 250 kids get there somehow.
Not Saturdays,
40 or 50?
40
40 or 50.
40 or 50.
In the material it refers to a soccer field and a playground. So I would assume those are going to be your only outdoor activities?
Yes.
And a 10,000 square foot gymnasium?
10,000, yes. I'm not sure about
That's a very decent-sized gymnasium, so there are no plans for teams, games?
Actually, we're thinking of doing something, but we didn't decide it yet. I
I
can
know,
tell.
but that could be relevant to the hearing.
For definitely, we'll make up, exercises and sports, but we're not gonna have games over there.
Well, what about on the soccer field, for example, outside? You said right now, for example, that you don't have any intramural stuff. Is there any likelihood that
You mean
might in the
interscholastic?
future? I'm sorry?
Interscholastic, you mean?
Interscholastic.
Yeah.
I don't think that soccer field
It's a small
is
soccer.
very small. I don't think
Small
it would
size,
even be
yes.
Yeah.
Six
large
by
enough
six.
for even a regulation youth soccer. It's
Yeah,
basically
5 by
an
5.
open running area, really.
Okay.
I guess they've called it a soccer area, but
Yes.
it gets us for the kids they can run around.
6x6 or something.
Would there be a problem with a condition that there be no interscholastic teams?
I'm sorry, what again? No, not in our school.
So there's no problem with that condition.
And then another secondary issue with the gym is that size, should probably not be rented out to
No, we're not
outside
gonna rent it.
teams,
No,
facilities.
no, we're not gonna rent it.
Those probably have, people realize it's there, I'm sure you're gonna have inquiries. So
We're not- no,
that's
we're not.
a second acceptable condition,
That's acceptable, Mr. Thomas.
right? And then what's the general geographic makeup of your students? For instance, how many are Franklin kids, how many North Brunswick?
85% from Franklin Township.
And then what are the communities that are listed in the charter?
Our residents are Franklin Township, North Brunswick, and South Brunswick.
Is the school a not-for-profit or a for?
It's a public charter school,
It's a public charter school licensed by the state of New Jersey.
free public charter.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
What's your arrangement with the landlord and the other parking spaces? Are you guys allowed to use those?
We'll get into that with
Okay.
the bottom line, the answer is there's a parking lot designated for us, and there are 2 other parking lots that are designated for FarmScript. It may be that in the evenings, we may be able to use them, but right now, we have 1 allocated parking spot.
Okay.
And we'll get testimony as to that.
One other question. How many faculty members at the school?
Currently 44. We expect 50 next year.
Anything else?
Just, do you consider this, you've had 3, this is the 3rd location.
This is second.
This, well, you have,
150 will be 30, yes.
this was 3rd, yeah.
Yes.
Is this the best locations of any of the,
Yes, as much as we see.
Cordelia Lane is very narrow
Very narrow, yeah.
and has bad turns and stuff, yeah. But the other one was, I think you came before us at Schoolhouse, no?
No,
it's
the
first
schoolhouse is Central Jersey Charter Prep and also the Chinese school or at Schoolhouse.
At
And
school-
they started off initially at that site.
I see, yeah, I know I remember seeing that site before,
Right.
yeah. And this site is improvement of anything you've had before? This is an improvement over
Yes.
other sites?
Yes, yes,
So you're going to have, even though it's on the 2nd floor and you're sharing a building, and
yes.
there's more space, there's
Yes, we
more
have- Yes,
gymnasium, there's more?
yes.
You know where in Cordelua they are, right? At the day camp. The day camp.
Yeah, the old,
The day camp, yeah.
Yeah.
So you could just imagine what
right,
it's like getting out of there.
got it.
Anyone else have a question for this?
One question, Mr. Chairman. Could you expand a little bit on the number of classrooms? It was said that there was 2 per grade, so that's, I guess 18 regular classrooms.
Yes,
And then you have basically 21 other classrooms.
Be- because
Seems like a lot of
Yes.
specialty classrooms.
because we have 4 science labs on top of the homerooms, 18 plus 4 science labs we have. We have 3 selective languages with
I'm
will
sorry.
be
Could you speak a little more slowly?
okay. 4 science labs, biology, physics, chemistry, and then 1 general science classes, and we will be having selective language classes. We have
How many language classes?
3.
3?
3. and we have 2 art classrooms, 2 music classrooms, 1 ESL, 2 special ed classrooms, 3 classrooms consist of auditorium, teachers lounge. We have around 8 to 10 robotics rooms we need during the after school clubs. We need 2 science Olympiad rooms. We have creative writing clubs, school band. We have different kinds of after school clubs that we need to utilize these classrooms for.
So the bottom line is, you need all the rooms, but
Yes.
they're not all used at the same time?
No,
Okay,
yes. Will make us easier for scheduling.
yeah.
So, excuse me, what
Yes.
does it mean, Thomas Edison Energy? What does that mean?
Energy Smart that's how they approve from state, is the theme. We have smart tech classes every grade. We have smart tech classes. We teach smart tech, energy smart themes, like wind energy, turbine energy, that kind of projects.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry, just one more question. In the application that was submitted to the board, there were a few different figures, just for clarification here, because there was a figure of 378, and then there was another figure of 450 students, and then the testimony tonight is that your charter is 396. Do you know why those other figures were in there?
Because we have 44 per grade and per 9, K through 8, it makes 9 classes, 9 times 44, 396.
Okay, but do you know why that the 378 and the 450 were cited in the application?
At one time, we cited the number, we didn't cite the number for the 8th grade because it was not there, and then I don't know how some of the other numbers got in, but our charter,
Your charter is 396.
and if the board
That's
wants
the
to,
subject of this application.
is 396, that would be a condition.
Okay.
And if you want a copy of the charter, we'd be glad to provide it to you.
That's even if you get the 8th grade?
That's including the 8th grade. We're at under 350 right now. And when we get the 8th grade, it'll be 396, and that would be the max that we're allowed by the state.
And if you were, even if you kept that K through 8 and added a 3rd class per grade, you'd have to get a new charter, either amend your charter with the state.
We need to.
Yes.
And they'd have to come back here,
You'd have to
too.
come back here if the board was to approve it. Okay, thank you.
Is there any use of the facility in the summer, during the summer months?
We didn't decide yet. We didn't decide yet. But we need to go through the county to apply for that, if you have a summer school or something, if you want to.
Is it summer school or simply daycare or?
No daycare. If we have to go to county, Somerset County, and we may have only 1 a week or 2 weeks, and we don't have teachers available at that time anyway.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Okay. Mr.
All right, thank
Stiers.
you.
Yeah. Solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
And your name for the record?
Craig Stiers, President Stiers Associates, 43 West High Street, Somerville.
A little, hold it closer.
Craig Stiers, President Stiers Associates, 43 West High Street, Somerville.
All right, Mr. Stiers, you're a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey and have appeared before boards in Franklin for many years.
Yes.
Can I offer his testimony as a licensed professional engineer, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I think we've seen.
Okay. Mr. Stiers, your firm originally prepared the plans in this matter on, July 10th, 2015?
Yes.
Okay, and after the plans were submitted, there were a series of meetings that took place between yourself, representatives of the school, and representatives of the township. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and as a result of meetings, there were revisions to those plans on September 16th, 2015. Is that correct?
Yes.
And those are the plans that are currently in the hands of the board members. Is that correct?
Yes.
After that September 16th meeting, there were some additional comments that were generated, and additional meetings that took place with township staff, and a new set of revisions, you revised the plans again on October 31st, 2015. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the exhibit that we will mark as A2 is actually the revised plan as of 10/31/2015?
That's correct.
Okay, so it is not 100% identical to what the board is looking at, but these are the improvements that were made to the plan as a result of the meetings with the township staff.
Yes.
Okay, in addition to that, was there a meeting that took place earlier today between the township planner, township zoning officer, township engineer, and yourself and myself concerning this project?
Yes.
And at that time, did we review the last set of staff comments in conjunction with this application?
Yes.
And before I go over the changes, in essence, can we comply, or have we already complied with all of the staff comments that were generated in conjunction with this application?
Yes.
Okay. Can you briefly indicate, and go to your exhibit and mark it A2, and basically take the board through what changes we are making to the site in order to accommodate the school?
Okay. The plan is essentially a colored version of what you have, except what Peter said, the changes we have made were the comments that we received for the meeting last month that we were postponed from. So we took the opportunity to, with that extra month, to make the changes to the plans and sit down with the staff today to kind of go over things to make things a little bit smoother. As you can see on the plan itself, on the bottom here is a portion of Pier Street. This is the southerly portion of the site where the school will be located. So the improvements that we are going to make are, number one, we are going to have a bus drop-off area on the side, on the northerly side of the entrance road, and then also turn the corner so that it ends up, the first bus would be right near the entrance. In order to allow that bus parking area, we are going to widen the loop road in the area of the buses. So right now, the roadway currently is approximately 36 foot wide. There's a single lane in, a left turn, and then our straight and right. We're going to extend that existing curb line past where the buses turn into so that any vehicles, while the buses are parked, can still get by the buses going two ways. So you can come in and exit at the same time. And then once it's past that point, it'll transition back to the existing width of the width of the road. The other thing that we are going to do is, right now this aisle is only 23 feet wide, so we're going to widen it to the by ordinance it's 26 feet. So we're going to widen that aisle. That'll also aid in the circulation of the buses through the parking lot. This parking will just be extended to the north, so it'll be a 26-foot aisle, 18-foot parking spaces, and then also add the handicap spaces that are required for the school in the northeast corner. We will also add a sidewalk here, because what we're going to do for the parent drop-off, those that are not coming on the bus, they will pass the buses, and we're going to have a temporary drop-off area in this area. So you'll hear later in the testimony that there are 3 security people associated with the school that are part of the drop-off and pick-up each day. So they are going to cone off this area so that there's no parking during the drop-off and pick-up. And they're going to direct the parents that come along the side here, drop their children off on the sidewalk, and then between the 3 security personnel, make sure that the children get into the building safely and get the parents out and move the progression along.
If the area is coned off, is there going to be sufficient parking
Yes.
at that point?
Right. Yes, there is, because there's essentially in excess of 60 parking spaces. So the remainder will be that 45 to 50 parking spaces for the staff. So that the parking the remaining parking will be adequate for the staff.
Okay.
So like I said, this will just be temporary cones to direct the cars through this area and then get them back out. One of the things that was mentioned is the soccer field. As Mark said, it's more like a open space area. It's way below the size of a normal soccer field, but it's an area for them to exercise. And also a proposed playground. At this point, we don't have the specifics of the playground, but we just wanted to allocate the area on the plan. I think other than that, it's, the rest is just striping and signage associated with the school itself. As far as the circulation, I think Jay will get into this a little bit further. But as far as because one of the questions about the mixing of the industrial use versus the school use is what we intend to do, again, is to cone off the loop road to kind of get that, I guess, frame of mind that when Farm Script comes in, they know to come in and use the northerly entrance and come into their own parking lot, and that the school personnel and students and parents will use this area. And these cones, again, it's just kind of getting the mindset when these two uses are going at the same time so that the parking works properly. And like, with the three security personnel, you have that live people out there to enforce these things that we're looking to implement.
Now,
Okay.
getting with the, and I don't know if you're the right person, but egress onto Pierce Street, there's a right-hand turn and a left, how does that work?
We do have a traffic guy, but Jay will probably go into that, but there is a left and a right. And there is a light, obviously, at Pierce and World's Fair, but Jay will get into that as far as the timing of the light and, the peak traffic.
I have a question that might not be for you, but I guess to put it out in general. You're proposing widening the driveway in certain areas, use of a parking lot with a use that's more intense than what it would be if it were used as zoned, and the traffic is going to come back out that way again. You also have a playground and a soccer area all across, directly across from 3 residential buildings. I would think that there should be a plan for buffering.
I mean, we can look into that with Mark. I mean, at this point, the comment wasn't there, but, I mean, we can look into it. That's a requirement.
Well, yeah, that was actually something related to that was going to be my question, which is, you do have the townhomes next to you, you can see the buildings to the left of the school, and then behind are single-family. So the site is, that area is surrounded. Can you describe, because you had mentioned, really the main physical change compared to the existing condition is, as you described, you're expanding the driveway a little bit. What that plan is showing in the light green is basically grass area. And
Yes.
in the dark green, well, actually, that's not really totally true. I guess could you confirm, what does the dark green mean?
The dark green here?
No, the dark green kind of near where the townhouses are, so there's that darker green. What is that?
It's probably just really off-site, but it's still grassed areas.
I guess my question is this. There is vegetation along I'll just call it the southerly boundary of your site. Is the expansion of that driveway affecting that existing buffer at all? Are you removing a single tree?
No.
Those are along the property, so you're basically expanding the driveway in the area that's currently grass?
Correct.
Okay,
And it's approximately, I think we're widening approximately 6 or 8 feet.
okay. And the parking lot, are you changing the area lighting in any way?
One of the requests was to confirm the lighting, but when I went out there, it wasn't on at this point, so that still needs to be confirmed, but I don't anticipate changing the lighting, no.
So basically, the comment was, is the existing light working, and if it's not, replace it, but basically you're going to keep the existing condition as far as the
Yes.
lighting. You're not taking modest lighting and putting up
No.
25, 40-foot high new
No.
lights.
But that also needs to be looked at. This building and the site plan is how many years old?
Well,
And
that
does
is,
the lighting that
Yeah,
does exist?
that's one of the conditions that's in the report that they're gonna comply with, that once they get in, they're gonna look at the lighting and it's on and in conjunction with staff, and if it needs to be lit further, we'll light it to the extent to make it safe with the least amount of impact.
Right, that's one concern. But also, I don't know what the height of the existing poles are, the type of coverings or fixtures that they're using. They should be shining directly down, not.
We can certainly, if,
They are
If-
shoebox
yeah,
lights.
if they
They
need
are.
to replace any lights, we could certainly make that a condition that they would have to replace it with shoebox lights that conceal the light source and.
They're all existing shoebox there, aren't
Yeah.
they?
Yes.
Yeah.
They just, like I said, when I was out there, they just weren't on, so I couldn't give them the light study that was, but I would estimate that they're probably 20 feet high, and they are shoebox lights. But like I said, I just didn't get the opportunity because they weren't on at the time. But we will supply that if they need to be upgraded, we'll do that as a condition of approval.
Any,
Okay. For the record, Mr. Stiers, the plan that you've been referring to shows basically the one entrance on the side closest to the school. There is another entrance to the property. Okay, perfect. And the other driveway entrance will be used by the other tenant, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and can you indicate to the board what the present signage is at the site and what we are proposing, again, to distinguish the two uses?
Right now, you have two signs that are at the intersection of World's Fair and Pierce, that if you were to go out there now, they say Dove, but we are anticipating that we would take the sign portion out and put the charter school sign in their place. And then at the other entrance, put essentially the same construction and put farm script at the other side, perpendicular to the road. So there'll just be one sign at the other entrance.
Okay, and technically that requires a variance because we have two signs.
Right.
But
Well, there'll
we're-
be two for the school and then
Yeah.
3 total, so, yeah.
And basically then the visitors or parents or the employees obviously will know what driveway belongs to what user, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Peter, you want to mark that A3? Are you marking that?
Mark that A3. I don't know if you marked the other one as A2, but,
Yeah.
okay. And just for the record, A3 is the overall plan of the entire site?
Colorized, yes.
Okay, thank you.
This application only relates to the school.
Yes. The other one's permitted use anyway.
Yeah.
Next witness, Mr. Thomas, or?
yeah, I was deciding whether another question or concern I have would be for this witness or the traffic. I want to, when I quote a section of the project description, it says, while the use of the building by farm script doesn't require board approval since it's a permitted use, the characteristics of that use are important to consider as they may affect the use variance and site plan application for the charter school. Are we creating a charter school that will severely limit the use of the other part of the facility should PharmaScript move someday? Because right now, you're working so that these two uses fit. So PharmaScript leaves, what do you do with the rest of the building?
Well,
And I bring it up because it's a commercial, there may be other permitted commercial uses that don't jive with the school.
and it also may be that the charter school may leave someday before FormScript. I mean, the reality is if FormScript leaves, a new user, if it's a permitted use, then has to come in and lease the building.
I guess I'm just asking if by doing this, we're limiting the potential list of tenants in the future.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I think that's a good question. I think when I look at that, I think the reverse is the situation. I think the school, if anything, might be limited in the future because if you look at the 3 gray areas of the parking lots, the school is going to get the parking lot in the upper left-hand corner, which is the 68 spaces. FarmScript, oh, by the way, in terms of square footage, they're basically 50-50 in the building.
Right.
Right? I mean, the school's getting about less than a quarter of the total parking spaces?
Yes.
And then there's that really large parking lot back there, and FarmScript is going to be using that one down there. Do you happen to know the parking counts?
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at.
208, was it 286 spaces are existing?
Yeah, if you were to look at this, the other half is warehouse space. I mean, it's basically 57 spots you would need
Yeah.
between the two uses.
I think if anything, the parking needs for FarmScript and the fact that they're using the bulk of the parking on the site, if anything, it's gonna
Yeah.
limit the school.
Yeah,
And
the-
their ability to expand on the
Yeah.
site.
Correct.
The other thing, Mr. Thomas, the impervious coverage requirements in the zone allow up to 65%. We're at roughly 36%, and you see a lot of green there. I mean, if the parking lot had to be expanded for another user, there's more than ample room to provide more parking in the future.
All right, that's good. I wasn't just thinking of parking, just, there probably, I'm sure that there are commercial uses that would be less attractive to be in the same building with a school, that's all. And by doing this, I'm not the owner of the building. It seems to me that you're limiting the potential pool of tenants that can be in that other side of the building if FarmScript leaves. If that's not a concern for anybody, so be it. We'll dwell on it.
How long has the building been vacant?
Oh, yeah, it's a minimum of 5 years, and maybe even longer than that.
Yeah,
So the farmer's script is not there yet?
They hopefully.
almost.
Almost there.
Yeah.
You don't know how long their lease is?
I do not know how long their lease is.
And do you know how long their lease is gonna be, your clients?
I do not know. 20 years.
I'll be dead.
Now, you'll still be here, you and I. We won't know what we're doing, but we'll still be here.
We may have to help you, bang the gavel. You'll be here about
Any other questions? Go.
Mr. Gargis, please.
That little light-
Raise your right hand.
Solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
And your name for the record?
Nicholas Gargas, Gargas,
Mr. Gargis, by whom are you employed?
the Thomas Edison School.
Okay, and how long have you been so employed?
A year and 3 months.
Okay, and what is your job title?
Security officer.
Okay, and prior to coming to work for Thomas Edison, what did you do?
I was with the Irvington Police Department for 30 years on
Okay.
retirement.
Okay. Now, you are in charge of handling the arrivals and departures, among other things, of the students at your current location?
Yes,
And
sir.
the buses? Can you explain to the board the situation at the current location? How many parking spaces roughly you have, and how you manage buses at your present location?
Currently, we have in the vicinity of 50 to 60, maybe a hair more, 60-some-odd parking spaces, but they're spread out throughout the complex. We take buses in the morning. We have 6 buses that arrive, along with approximately 30 to 35 parent drop-offs.
And do the parent drop-offs take place at the same time in the morning as the bus arrivals?
Yes, they do.
Okay, and you have a segregated area for the buses to go to as opposed to the parent drop-off?
The parents for the kindergarten, first and second grade drop the students off in a different area. The parents for 4 through 7 drop in the same vicinity as the buses.
Okay. Now, you've sat at meetings with our professionals and the township professionals to deal with the logistics of the buses and parent drop-off at the proposed site. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and can you explain to the board how the parent and bus drop-off would work in the morning, first of all?
For the new school.
For the new school?
The buses have a designated area. It's a drop zone. They'll line up, and at the designated time will be emptied by a combination of a security officer as well as teachers. The parent drop-off area will be in the parking lot along the one corner of near the gym. The area will be signed and it will be coned off for parent drop-off. The parents will approach the curb, drop the child off, the student off rather, excuse me. The student will then be moved to the entrance door by a security officer as well as staff.
Okay, and in no time do the parents park and bring their children into the school, both at the present location and in the proposed location?
No, not during these times. If they need to drop something off, they can return after all the students are in the building.
Okay, so when the bus arrives, it goes to the designated bus drop-off area, and the students are then escorted by staff into the building?
Correct.
Okay. When parents come and drop their students off, again, they exit the motor vehicle, and then they are also physically escorted into the building?
Yes.
Okay. And generally, how many between security people and teachers do you have outside at the present time, and how many do you envision at the new location?
Presently, there are 2 security guards, 1 in each location, as well as 1 to 2 staff members. There's never less than a security guard at each location. We handle mostly the vehicles and the parents, and then pass the children off to the staff.
Okay. Now, right now you're up to the 7th grade. We're going to add another grade. Do you envision needing any additional buses, or the buses that you currently have, will they be able to handle the additional grade?
Best we could guess would be no more than 8 buses, but not full-size buses. There are probably going to be 7 large buses and 1 24 capacity.
Okay. Now, at the end of the school day, when students are leaving, how do you arrange for the students to depart the property?
The students will gather in the gymnasium according to, we use bus colors or bus numbers, whatever they decide to use, so that the students are ready to leave the gym and walk directly onto the bus. The other students are being picked up, will gather in one area. We will start loading the parent drop-offs approximately 5 to 7 minutes prior to the buses. This will alleviate any of the traffic that's there. We're currently doing that now, we're trying that now, and it's working very well.
So that the parents who are picking up their children will pick them up at an earlier time than the buses?
Yes, they will.
Okay.
They don't actually, they'll pull up. At this time, we know most of the parents. We bring the children out, get them in the car, they pull away.
Okay.
So there's no lag time.
And you indicate in the morning there's roughly 30 parents that drop off their children to 35?
30 to 35, depending on the day, yes.
Yeah, and pickup would be the same number?
Yes.
Okay. And how do you then load the buses when they arrive? First of all, do all the buses arrive at the same time?
Since I've been there from day one, we've never had all the buses at one time. Usually, we have 2 or 3 buses come early, and then the other ones come in sometime behind them.
Okay, and how do you load the buses?
We call the buses by color or by bus number. The children exit. From the time they're called to the time they're on the bus and seated is usually about 3 minutes. We usually call 1 to 2 buses at a time.
Okay, and again, the children are then escorted from the gymnasium to the bus by either security or teachers?
Yes. The security usually stays out with the buses, and then the transportation from point A to point B is done by teachers.
Okay. Now, do you have any involvement in the after-school programs on how the kids are picked up in the after-school programs?
The kids are usually, well, they're all picked up by their parents, and it's a release time of 4 o'clock. For the new building, we envision on bringing the clubs or wherever after-school activity they are to the gymnasium, have the parents come and get the kids. Our parking lot at that time, the area that we had blocked off for student pickup, we could open up, and our staff, not everyone stays until that time, so our staff is depleted at that time, so there are additional parking spaces open.
Now, you've heard Mr. Yildiz testify as to your evening events, and have you been involved in sort of coordinating the back-to-school nights and the winter festival at the present location?
Yes.
And basically, how do you deal with the parking for those events?
Currently, we have the use of some soccer fields and some grass areas that we could park the overflow. We physically park all the cars as they come into the lot. Myself and at least one other security officer out there will direct them where to park. They said the overflow we have fields for, and we maintain that, and so far, we've been able to park everybody on site.
Okay. Now, with this site having, for now, for certain, the availability of 60-some parking spaces, how do you intend to handle the parking for these events?
I've spoken with Mr. Yildiz, and we're going to have to go to an off-site venue and transport the parents in. In doing that, we'll find somewhere that they can make an agreement with. In doing that, we'll contact the local police department just to make sure that they know what the event is and what we're doing, give them a traffic control plan, and meet any requirements that they may have for it.
Thank you. Also, you heard testimony on the fact that the other site, the other half of the site is being used by FarmScript, or will be used by FarmScript. How are you planning to prevent the intermingling of the traffic between FarmScript and the school?
As far as access to the building, there's only one access, the main entrance that we'll be using. The others are locked doors that only lead to our school, so we have control of them. There's the key card system that we're using now, and I'm sure we'll continue using it in the other building. There's only one door that doubles for emergency purposes, as was brought up earlier. Both of us will have the door alarmed with an audible alarm, so we'll know if anybody opens it. There'll be fencing around the outer areas, and we intend on using movable barricades, either cones or sawhorses, for the roadway to get people into the mindset to separate the two. There won't be that commingling of people going by and that.
Okay, and you envision that the parents who then come in the morning to drop their children off, or come in the evening to pick up their children, would drop them off, exit that parking lot, then make a left turn out of that parking lot and go back to the traffic signal at Pearson. That's how they would leave the site, is that correct?
That's what we're planning on, yes.
Yeah, so that they would have no reason to make the right and go back where FarmScript is that correct?
There will be no cause for them to go there, no.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions of this witness.
That having been said, when you talk about I think it may have been mentioned in the papers, but when you talk about off-site parking in the event of a need for overflow, is there any possibility of using the parking that is on the site and with FarmScript? Or would that confuse people because it would, they could get onto that site sometimes and then not other times?
We haven't discussed that with the landlord. It was our goal to try to keep the two uses separate. It was also the landlord's goal. Again, and we've done it with religious organizations when they have special events. If we need to get off-site parking, as he indicated, we will get off-site parking. A lot of the office buildings in that area in the evenings are pretty empty, so I'm sure something could be worked out with somebody to move people from one site and then bus them into our site if we need to do that.
No, I was just thinking that if you're on the same site, it's a whole lot easier than busing people.
Yes and no. I mean, there is not a total sidewalk connection throughout the entire site, so,
Okay.
It probably is not going to make that much of a difference, and, we'll look at all avenues too.
I would like, if this is approved, to have the condition, as he testified, that they would contact the police department and give them the traffic plan, so the police department was aware of what's happening. So if there needed to be any further, traffic control put into place, and,
That's definitely.
yeah.
I think I'd like to maybe even add to that condition that they not institute the use of on-site parking until it's approved by somebody in planning, zoning, or police, so that we're not getting into something
Yeah, Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I don't think
Or the
they
second
want to
part-
do that either. I think that would be something at the last
The
resort.
other option would be to continue splitting some of their functions.
We will continue to do that, but it may be that still, there may be a feeling that that may be problematic, and if it is, we will make arrangements through the police department and through Mr. Dominak's office and advise them of what we're doing and how we're going to handle it. Fortunately, with the traffic light, we may not need a police officer there for busing people in, but, I mean, we would work those logistics out.
I just worry about the feasibility of, you have the winter concert or back-to-school night or whatever, and you're going to tell the parents, go park at 500 World's Fair Drive, we're going to bus you in. I mean, is that really going, I just don't know how realistic that is. You know, and just, you know, then we'll end up hearing the complaints if the parents end up parking across the street at the shopping center and walking over. You know, that's probably more realistic than them actually parking a half mile away and waiting to get bussed over. I think you really need to look at, looking at the description of farm script, their 3:30 to midnight shift is only 100 employees. Now, why can't they, you know, perhaps if there's some evening event, maybe the school could have use of the parking lot on the lower right-hand corner. That's next, you know, that's, you know, a sidewalk connection up.
That we can.
Have more space, it's more realistic. I think it's far better to have overflow parking on site than some arrangement.
That parking lot probably would be available because that's an executive parking lot, and probably those people wouldn't, that parking lot would not be used at night.
You know,
But I'm not going to sit here and represent to the board that we can do that because we don't have the permission as I'm sitting here today. If you're asking us to try to do that, we will try to do it, but I can't say to you we will do that because I don't have the permission.
But that's something that that needs to really be addressed, because you're, as described, those functions are starting at 6 PM. Now we're talking about off-site movement of people in the worst part of every day in that area, traffic-wise. So,
And it may be, Mr. Thomas, that, you know, where they're located now, 6 PM works. Maybe having a winter concert at 6 PM is not the time it should be there. It should be at 7 o'clock or 7:30 because of rush hour traffic, and that's something they'll have to look at.
all those things might need to be adjusted. You're right.
I have a question, based on your 30 years of experience as a police officer. Is this layout safer than the current layout on Cordeloo?
The way we have it now, the intermingling of the buses and the cars, I would say yes.
One more question. How many parking spaces are coned off?
There will be 18 parking spaces coned off. We'll leave the handicap in place, so I think there's 18. There's enough parking for staff.
Okay, so about 50, 52 will be left.
I believe right around the 51 or 2 mark, yes, sir.
Okay, and that goes along with your projected 50-person faculty. Now, in the afternoon, I can understand in the morning, you're going to go out before people show up, cone off the area. How's it going to work in the afternoon? What happens if visitors show up and park there? How are you going to get them out of those areas, out of those spaces?
Well, any visitor to the complex has to come through security to come into the building. So we'll know who they are, where they are, and what they're driving. They'll be signed, and we'll go out at probably about 2 o'clock to cone everything off. The sign will be from 2 to 3, no parking, and 7 to 9 a.m., 2 to 3. But if someone is there past 2 o'clock, like I said, they have to come through us.
Okay.
So it's as simple as going to a room to get them and say, you must move your car.
So is that a visitor-only parking on that stretch?
Well, the staff will be told from the get-go to park in the other spots.
Okay.
So in essence, it will become a visitor-only parking.
Okay, and you had mentioned it would be signed no parking 2 to 3?
7 to 9, 2 to 3, whatever the hours that we
You're
need
just
to do.
physically going to have a sign?
Yes,
That
we
effect?
intend to, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any others?
Mr. Troutman.
Good evening.
Good evening. Solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
State your name and spell it for the record.
It's J Troutman, Troutman.
Mr. Troutman, by whom are you employed?
I am a principal with the traffic engineering firm of McDonough and Ray Associates.
And can you give the board the benefit of your educational and professional background?
Yes, I'm a, excuse me, I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. My field of specialty is traffic engineering. I've been practicing in the field for 28 years, conducting traffic impact studies.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Enough years.
Mr. Troutman, you prepared a traffic analysis for the proposed project, and it submitted a report dated September 21st, 2015, did you not?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and in preparing the report, you spoke to representatives of the school and talked to them about how they would operate their facility, is that correct?
That is correct.
And did you also have the opportunity to speak with the owner of the property and determine how the other half of the building would be used, the hours of operation for the other half of the building, and the shifts at the other half of the building?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and all of that information was in fact included in your report, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you basically describe the area where this property is located and the roadways that are affected by this site and whether there are any traffic signals in the area?
Yes, starting from the outside of the property, we have frontage along Pierce Street, which is running along the bottom of the plan across. We are located at a signalized intersection. World's Fair Drive comes in from the bottom of the page, basically from the north. You have Pierce Street running generally east-west, and then you have a roadway extending into the property in a southerly direction. Existing traffic signal, we went out and observed that traffic signal, the status of it, the maintenance of it. I was pleased to see that it is a quote-unquote smart traffic signal. And what I mean by that is it only turns red for Pierce Street when somebody is on the side street. I can't tell you how many poorly maintained traffic signals I've run across in this state that will make you stop and wait at a red light when nobody is coming out of the side street. This light is fully actuated. It's got the cameras to detect the traffic on the side streets, and it only changes when there's demand. The other key point that I observed about this traffic signal is that there's plenty of excess capacity built into it already, given the fact that it was designed to accommodate this building when it was at full use. So under existing conditions, you have sequences where it will turn red for Pierce and World's Fair Drive traffic will clear, and it immediately goes back to Pierce. When you time it, you realize that there's plenty of excess up to about 20 seconds per cycle that's not used right now because there's not the demand out there, but that capacity is available for permitted use of the building or for this use. So there's plenty of excess capacity, again, starting from the outside and starting to work your way in. The next key factor as you work into the site is that for any school to function well, it's all about curb face. You need lots of linear curb face to handle what the safety officer was just discussing, this pickup and this load drop-off that occurs every day. So we have 200 feet of curb face available that could hold up to 5 buses simultaneously. When I went to observe the existing site, I saw at the most 3 buses at one time. We can hold 5. They don't come at the same time. In addition, we will create the necessary curb face within the parking lot to accommodate all of the parent vehicles as well. I wanted to key in on a comment from Vincent, which was about the safety. I would like to say that this design, which was worked through with your professional staff on several levels, and we've arrived at what I think is a much safer and much better operation than what they currently have on Cortellia. It's much more organized. It provides much more curb face on the proper side of the building. If you went out to Cortellia, you would see that there are some situations where cars have to be parked across from the traffic aisle of the building and people have to walk across. That is not the situation here. Everything is right against the building, and there's plenty of curb face to handle all of that activity. In terms of comparing this to a permitted use, one favorable aspect is that the peak hours are different in the afternoon. We have an early afternoon peak hour at 2:45 every afternoon when existing roadway traffic is lower, and it's all cleared out by 3 o'clock. And then you have a secondary discharge around 4 o'clock that's much lower, and that can also be accommodated. But that's staggering in the afternoon, and the fact that most of the activity is outside the roadway peak is a favorable aspect of this use.
Okay, did you also analyze, after speaking with the landlord, the interrelationship of the traffic generated by FarmScript and their hours in comparison to the traffic that we generate?
Yes, we requested the shift information for FarmScript, and again, they do have a sort of an earlier afternoon shift that lets out, but it's well after we're cleared out. Again, by 3 o'clock, everything's going to be quiet on our end, and their early afternoon shift doesn't begin to let out until 3:30.
So that in essence, you don't have everybody leaving that site at one time?
Correct.
Okay, and quite frankly, if it was a permitted use with a single user that had shifts, then that entire site would leave at one time generally and probably at a peak hour, correct?
That's correct.
So in reality, with the FarmScript hours and the applicant's hours, none of those are really, at least in the afternoon, during peak hour?
Correct.
Okay. And in your opinion, this site can function safely for the use by the school, and there's adequate room for drop-off, not only adequate area, but adequate safety is being provided. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Any board questions?
I just wanted to cover, I'm over here.
Sorry.
It's okay. Just pedestrians. There's no sidewalks and there's no students coming by foot. Are there pedestrians in the area? I mean, if somebody wanted to run out to a shop someplace, they're not too far away.
Actually, if I can answer that, because that was a discussion we had today, Mr. Troutman was not there today. There was proposed to be sidewalk only along the building here. Mr. Vega had requested that we consider extending the sidewalk out to Pierce Street, which we had not shown on the plans, and we are going to do that so that there is a pedestrian walkway. We know that there is a residential development to the left of us, and Mr. Vega asked the question, well, what if some students enrolled in the school and wanted to walk to school? We want a sidewalk, and so we are going to put one there. And there is sidewalk available along Pierce
And
at the intersection.
Are there crosswalks?
Yes, there are crosswalks and pedestrian push buttons.
Push buttons, okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, a few questions, Mr. Chairman. The school is going to occupy about 50,000 square feet. Do you have ballpark figure, if that was occupied by a permitted use, another permitted use, how many parking, what would be the parking, the traffic generation resulting from a permitted use? An office, for example?
About 50,000, you could have probably about 200 parking spaces if it was 4 per 1,000, something along that order, so depending on how they discharged.
And that would be you'd expect that to be the trip generation from a permitted use?
Yeah, I don't know if they all come out in the exact same hour, but that's the magnitude we're talking about.
What if it was what was do you know what the previous use was in that space?
I believe it was office, research, and some warehousing. But there was some research facilities in there. It was Best Foods.
Okay, so the traffic generation from this is how many vehicles come out of there during that dismissal period?
During the dismissal, you'd have basically the 35 parent vehicles and 5 to 6 buses, so about 40
Okay.
vehicles.
Can you characterize that, compare that in comparison to a permitted use in terms of order of magnitude?
A permitted use would probably have, I'd say, on the order of 75, something like that.
Okay, so it'd be more vehicles for permitted use.
Yes.
And if they happen to, if it was an office, they may leave the site at the normal roadway peak hour, 5 to 6 p.m. So it's not just the matter of you're offset from the peak, but also just lower traffic generation from the site by virtue of that it's a school.
That's correct.
Okay. You had mentioned the phasing of the light. Did you say, was it 30 seconds? That is the,
It's a simple two-phase operation, alternating right away between Pierce and World's Fair and our roadway. So those are the only 2 phases there are. And if there's no demand out there, then it's about 70 seconds for a full cycle. If there's, during that 15 minutes when we discharge during full demand, there'd be 20 seconds that's not used right now, so that would extend the cycle to about 90.
okay. So I guess my question is this. During the day, when school's going on, there's maybe not a lot of traffic going in and out. The traffic's not going to, trip that light to change. But during the dismissal, there's going to be a good number of vehicles going out at once. What is the longest that that driveway is going to have green?
About 30 seconds.
About 30 seconds. And is that the max?
Yes,
Okay. And that's what the light is designed for?
correct.
Okay. The reason I asked that is just, the point being, when you have the 35 cars and you have up to 8 buses leaving all at once, if they all can't get through within 30 seconds, it's going to turn red again, and then Pierce is going to continue to flow.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Did you look at, there's a sign, I think, that says alternate route to 287. And well, most people go down Cedar Grove and get onto 287 there, but you can also go down and go Pierce and over to, whatever that is,
Davidson.
Elizabeth, yeah.
Elizabeth, yeah. And I'm not sure what the numbers there were. Do you have any idea if there's a big bunch of numbers?
I don't know the specific numbers. I'm familiar with the routes you're discussing.
Yeah.
I happen to use Davidson when I came in and out of the area, but there are several routes depending on what's most convenient.
I'm wondering whether it backs up along there in the morning, people going into the hotels and,
Yeah, well, obviously Davidson out, as
Yeah.
you get out towards Easton, that's where the activity is well off-site. There's significant peak hour, employer-generated activity out in that area.
a lot of the office buildings are pretty empty,
True.
And, MetLife moved out and a bunch more.
Actually, they're starting to get filled up again.
They are, yeah. Well, that would be good, but I'm just wondering about if it's a problem, but probably not.
Well, the pattern of this site would generally be, with 80 to 85% coming from within the township. There would be a pattern that would use more of the local roadway network and not a whole lot of interface with that outside situation, because you have a lot of outside traffic from outside the town coming in using those areas.
Got it, okay.
Any other questions?
One more witness. Ms. Elin, please.
Hi, good evening. If you raise your hand for me, solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Okay, and could you spell your last name?
It's E as in Edward, H-L-E-N.
Okay, and with these microphones, you got to hold them close, otherwise they don't pick up. By whom are you employed, Ms. Halen?
I work with Beacon Planning and Consulting Services located in Colts Neck, New Jersey.
And you are a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, and a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners.
And have you testified previously before planning board and zoning boards in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the zoning ordinance of the Township of Franklin and the master plan of the Township of Franklin?
Yes.
I would offer the testimony of Ms. Aylen as a licensed professional planner. Mr. Chairman, thank you. You've been here this evening listening to the testimony concerning the project. Have you also had an opportunity to review the plans and the reports concerning the project?
Yes.
Okay. And we are here this evening for a use variance because a school is not permitted in this zone. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And in order to obtain a use variance, we need to demonstrate certain things to the board, do we not?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Can you indicate to the board what our burdens of proof are, and can you also relate that to the testimony that we provided this evening?
Of course. The use variance this evening is for a charter school, which actually New Jersey municipal law would recognize as an inherently beneficial use. So in this case, we would look to the SECA test, which has a, in which the application automatically fulfills the positive criteria. And so in the SECA test, we look to 4 prongs. Give me one sec. First, we are initially identifying the public interest at stake, and this is a school which has been identified as inherently beneficial on numerous occasions. And this school will be benefiting Franklin Township in the majority, with a few other students from another township. We then look on to the detrimental effects, and as we've noted, testimony has been provided regarding both the layout of the site and the traffic generation, and how these items, when we look at them and we look how to mitigate them, we note how the applicant has taken time to work with the community and work out the problems that have been identified, including the busing, the parking, separating the uses, and things of that nature. Sorry. So when we come to the conclusion, it's that the board must balance the positive and negative, and there should be a substantial detriment envisioned associated with the use in order for there to be, I guess, a denial of the application. But in this case, we have showed that it is, the site is well situated for the use, and it is well laid out for the use, and any detriments can be mitigated through the aforementioned techniques.
Do you feel that if the board were to grant this variance, it would have any negative or detrimental impact on the zone scheme or the zone plan of the Township of Franklin?
No, I do not. The master plan actually outlines that this area is starting to transition to a little bit more residential, and the commercial was allowed in order to accommodate the residents in the area.
Do you feel that the grant of this variance would have any detrimental impact on any of the surrounding uses that are around the subject property?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Any board questions? Okay, that's your presentation? and then-
That concludes my presentation. I would be happy to have all my witnesses available to answer any additional questions that the board may have or that the public may have in conjunction with this application.
Before we get back to the board, we'll open to the public. And this would be your chance to ask questions concerning any witness's testimony or to make a statement. So when you come up, since you might be also making a statement, you have to be sworn in, please. Is there anyone who wants to speak? Then we'll close to the public. Any board questions? Anything you-
Actually, I do want to just confirm, there was some discussion or concern about the need for buffering around the playground and soccer area, and that, to my mind, was kind of left up in the air.
Yeah, I mean, when I went out to the site, and that's why I asked those kind of follow-up questions. I mean, I don't, when I compare this to what a permitted use would be, I mean, somebody could have, just like farm script, another office or lab use could have gone in, they would get a zoning permit from Vince, and there'd be no difference in impact. I mean, here,
Well, yes,
Uh,
except
just-
that if there were kids playing outside, there would be a certain amount of noise.
Yeah, I mean, but that's going to occur during the day. I mean, and I don't know what buffering would really, there's not going to be a visual impact from the kids. And you're not going to buffer noise through
Okay.
vegetation, you know, and I mean, kids are going to be playing it during the weekdays at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
I don't know, and that's why I asked that follow-up question of the engineer. I mean, if there was some physical modifications to the site that warranted some additional screening, visual screening from the residences that surround it, I don't see any change. There's no difference in the lighting, there's really no difference. They're just taking out a little bit of grass, adding some pavement so they can get the two-way flow around the bus stacking. I think largely it's going to have the same look as the existing condition, and if anything, there's going to be less activity that goes into the evening hours. I think the lights are probably going to be on less than they would if it was a permitted use. You know, maybe during this time of year, they might turn the lights on for some of the
I wasn't even
later.
concerning myself with the
Yeah.
lights, I was just thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, but I look at that as
Yeah.
part of it, because, you know, if they were going to replace the lights and have a lot more evening activity, well, that might impact those townhouses that you can see on the exhibit, but I think it's actually probably going to be the exact opposite. It'll probably actually have less of an impact than permitted uses could.
Well, I brought it up and threw it into the discussion only because a few years ago, right here on DeMont Lane, there was a huge controversy that lasted for quite a while with some very irate neighbors at corner of New Brunswick Road and DeMont Lane with the activity and noise at the playground at with the First Baptist, not First Baptist, the Somerset Baptist Bible Church down the street. If you've looked at it and you don't consider it a problem, I'm satisfied, but I thought it at least warranted.
Yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't warrant discussion. I mean, I don't think there's much you can mitigate. I mean, if there's a resident, frankly, who lives in those townhomes who doesn't like the noise of children playing at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I don't know what we can do about that, to be honest.
Actually, I don't know what we did for the other situation either at some point. Maybe the people who were upset eventually moved, I guess. But anyway, any other comments, motions?
I do think, well, I do have a little concern about the mixed use with a pharmaceutical. Is it a pharmaceutical packing? or
Distribution.
Distribution, and the kids, with what may go on over at the other side. And if there's any type of contamination or, you know, spills or accidents or anything of that nature.
There's no manufacturing going on at FormScript. Basically, they are receiving pills and things of that nature in bulk and then breaking them down and distributing them. So there's no manufacturing. It's basically a distribution facility. So there's nothing that's going on in there that would lead to believe that there could be any contamination of any kind or cross-pollination.
So they're basically getting the finished product? Is the way-
They're getting the finished product in bulk and then preparing and mailing out or sending out smaller, the same product in smaller doses.
So they're basically a pharmaceutical mail house.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, it's like a distribution center with a lot of office, a little bit of warehouse.
Yeah.
What's the chance of, what's the rare chance of pills getting waylanded there in this sense?
I mean, as you heard from the architect, there is extreme security on both sides. I mean, there is as much a concern that whatever the product is in the pharmaceutical end remain there and get sent out the way it's supposed to get out. And I think all you can do is provide the security that you need to do to make sure that they stay separate.
Yeah, having seen the plans when I reviewed them for the pharmacy use has rather high security because of the pills that they use. So, you know, the doors have the locking, they're all camera operated, they have the different security badges and the iris, so they have all that different type of security at that level.
I'm sure they do, but we wouldn't even have the question if it was like just an office environment, tentative, but okay.
Yeah, and I think also, I think you heard the testimony, I mean, the school also runs a pretty tight ship, monitors everything that they do, so I think that,
Well, we've seen a lot of breaches of security on TV, so, you know, anything's happened.
and that makes them even more vigilant.
Anything else? Anyone want to offer a motion?
I'll move that with the following conditions, that the school be permanently limited to 378 students.
396.
Is it 396? Yes. Yeah, 396. That there be no interscholastic games, that there be no rental of the gym, that the police department be contacted when any traffic control or off-site parking is necessary for special events. And that I guess, the routine that all of the professional recommendations be followed. And that, I assume, includes the discussion about lighting.
Well, I think maybe no renting of any of the facility.
Okay,
Yeah, we have no
Not,
problem.
not just the gym, just.
fine, no renting of any of this.
Can we have the sidewalk in too? Or is it already?
That's already.
That was in Mr.
Sorry.
Vega's report. We were going to ask that it not be put in, but we will put it in.
I think one more thing was, they're going to pursue the use of the executive parking lot for, during special events. I think they should be required to provide proof of that effort. And then if they are successful in gaining use of that executive parking lot, or along with special events, some type of plan for, or procedure for the offsetting of the time, maybe having special events, in several different times and evenings to stretch it out.
I think in that area, maybe it should just be reinforced if it doesn't have to be a condition, but those special events probably ordinarily shouldn't start before 7 o'clock.
My client hears you.
Any,
Yeah,
second?
Second.
Call the board.
Mr. Butterbid.
For.
Ms. Claman.
Yes.
Mr. McCracken. For. Mr. Rich.
Or.
Mr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. Rosenthal.
Yes.
Chairman Thomas.
Yes, I actually think it's one of the better charter school applications that we've had, so.
Thank you.
Oh, goodness. I'm all good for that.
Let's- Okay, Recon Services, ZBA 15-00021.
Can I have,
Variance with site plan in which the applicant's proposing mixed use of residential and commercial
Yeah.
purpose at 508, 512, and 516 Hamilton Street. Block 182, lots 101, 3.01, 5 through 11, 68, 69, the HBD zone, carried from September 17th.
can I have 5 minutes before we start that application?
Yeah, that's 5 minutes later, I'm getting to sleep.
for interfering with our zoning officer's planned
Sleep.
trip.
I want a little sleep before I got to drive for 5 hours. With Frank.
That's cruel and unusual punishment. For the record, Mr. Chairman, you called the application of Recon Services LLC. This is an application for a site plan approval for a mixed-use building on Hamilton Street, which covers an entire block on Hamilton Street, 508, 512, and 516 Hamilton. It also has frontage on Ambrose, and it also has frontage on Home. My client, over the last year and a half, assembled certain parcels of land that were owned by various owners in order to come up with the plans for this project. Normally, this would be an application before the planning board. Other than there is a small portion of one of the lots fronting on Ambrose Street that is in the R7 zone. And since that lot is not in the Hamilton Street Business District, we now got shifted over to the zoning board. But 90% or 95% of this project is in the Hamilton Street Business District zone and meets most of the requirements. Now, recently the township has amended the master plan and the zoning ordinance to try to encourage further development on Hamilton Street. Over the past 5 to 8 years, I've probably handled 4 or 5 applications before the planning board on Hamilton Street, and all of those have been approved. Only one was built. That was the one at the old Franklin State Bank site. The rest of the projects, for whatever reason, have not gotten out of the ground yet. Those applications, although they were permitted uses before the planning board, in each and every one of those, I had to go in and get certain deviations for story variances in order to make the projects work. Franklin, through the work of its planning department, the planning board, and the governing body, in the last year did amend the ordinance to allow the buildings on Hamilton Street now to be 4 stories in height, and also encouraged development containing studios and 1 and 2 bedroom apartments to generate more people and also perhaps less vehicles, because these would be more attractive toward students and graduate students in the proximity of Rutgers, and having public transportation available to them not too far from the subject property. And as you will hear, not this evening, but at the continued date, the ability of even my client to provide transportation so that there's less vehicles using the local roads. In presenting this application, we were carried to tonight. We knew we were behind previous application. We decided this evening only to present the testimony of the architect, so you can at least look at the plan, show you what we are doing, what the building is going to look like. We do have obviously a site engineer that needs to testify. We do need to have a traffic consultant who's back there sitting, but he's not going to testify tonight because all the testimony won't go in. We do have a planner that's got to testify. What we're going to do this evening is basically go over and show you the project in general terms, what the units are going to look like, what the building is going to look like, and then ask that we be carried to hopefully the December meeting. If your other matter on December 17th doesn't go, we will continue it to that night, and then we will present the remainder of the testimony at that time. I also have the applicant here, and if the board wants to hear from him for about 5 minutes, I will try to get him on tonight too. I will start with Mr. Roth.
I watched other microphone thing, suppose. I don't normally do a microphone unless I'm on stage someplace. With our Rotary Club, our main function fundraiser is an auction, and I happen to be the auctioneer. So if I can sell you something tonight, I'm going to try. Anyway, good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Let me swear you in, sir. You
Yes.
solemnly swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do. For the record, Robert B. Roth Jr., R-O-T-H, licensed architect and professional planner in the state of New Jersey, with my offices in Brant Beach, New Jersey, that's just down Long Beach Island.
Okay. Mr. Roth, you were retained by the applicant to prepare the plans for this project, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and you have basically taken and created colored renderings of the building that we are proposing to construct, and rather than go into a lot of question and answer, I'd like you to go through the boards and describe the building, starting with the exterior of it. And if you want to refer to the exhibits, I have marked the colored renderings, I believe A1 through A3. You can
Sure.
reference them.
Let me just sort of walk you through the initial ideas in the creation of basically one bedroom, two bedroom, and flats. You ask what a flat is. Basically, it's like it's 500 square foot. It's open space. There's really no bedroom. There's a bed, and it's a smaller unit. And the design of all the different units that we came up to fit the U-shaped design, we ended up with 31 flats. We have 3 one-bedroom and 50 two-bedrooms.
Is a flat like a studio?
Yes. Let me show you what a flat would look like. This is a flat. Okay, so it's got a kitchen, a living area, and a bedroom area, and a bath. It's very simple.
What were those numbers again? 31 flats? How many bedrooms? And
There were 31 flats, 3 one-bedroom, and 50 two-bedroom. What we did was on the first level, basically we're doing parking underground, okay, and we have a lot of parking underground. And you'll get all that when we get into the site engineered, but we have provided for 84 spaces underground. On the ground level, we created the commercial space on Hamilton. There's 3 stores, and we have the entryway that comes in, which will access the apartments above. We have some of the units here and some of the units here creating the U-shaped design. So on the upper levels, basically what we did is...
Mr. Roth, let me just stop you right there. The entrance to the units, is it from Hamilton Street itself, or is it from the back parking area?
Both.
Both. So there's going to be an entrance along the frontage of Hamilton Street, and there's also entrances from the parking lot.
That's correct. In other words, we have an entrance off Hamilton, which accesses the elevators and stair tower, but you can also access this from the street-level parking here and here, which goes into the stair towers and elevators. So you can access from anywhere.
Okay, and now the commercial space, as you mentioned, we have it broken down that to the exhibit that you're looking at now, to the left is a commercial space. Approximately, what is the size of that commercial space?
This one is 2,600 square feet. This is a smaller one at 1,650 square feet, and a larger one for 5,000 square feet.
Okay, now, obviously, the one on the left, because of the corridor, cannot be combined with the other two. Can the other two be combined, should somebody want to release all of that space?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Or broken down into more than 2,
Yes, it could, absolutely.
Okay.
Sure, you could make 3, 2 more stores there. It really depends on who's coming in to rent them. I believe that the client already has someone interested in this space, which is why it's 5,000 square feet. The upper levels, as we go up, are basically just apartments, combination of flats, 2 bedrooms and 1 bedrooms. Each floor has mechanical, each floor has a laundry, each floor has 2 elevators to access it. The building is completely handicapped accessible. And then the upper floors do this. So if we look at the building from the Hamilton Street side, which is this, which is also this beautiful colored rendering, I can't take credit for, but this is what you would see from Hamilton Street. The property slopes down as from Hamilton Street back to the back of the property. So as you start to look at the sides, you can see the slope that comes from Hamilton Street down to the back of the property, and there's almost, I want to say, close to 8 feet difference. The overall height that was measured from the back of the building is proposed at 54 feet. So if you averaged it, if you said, what is the height here? Well, it would be 46 feet, because there's about an 8-foot difference.
Okay, and just, that becomes important because the ordinance has a, what's the height, the minimum height requirement in the zone?
I think it's, what, 52 feet?
50 feet.
50 feet.
And at Hamilton Street, we are at the 50-foot height requirement, are we
You're
not?
less than 50 feet.
Okay, but because of the topography at the rear of the property, then we are going to be in excess of the 50 feet.
That's correct. If you look on the Hamilton Street, you have a grade elevation of 85.97 feet, which is almost 86 feet. And when you look back here, the grade elevation is 81 feet. So there's that drop. And it's different on the other side, too. Goes from 85 feet down to 77 feet. Still about an 8-foot drop. So if you took an average height, then we conform.
Well, and we're gonna, before the next meeting, we're gonna get some additional information to make a determination as to whether you need a variance or you don't, or whether the extent is.
Yeah.
Because our ordinance says the average elevation, and we need to figure it out. We've been discussing that with the applicant. They're gonna get us a little more information, and we'll have that by you for the next meeting.
But that's why I added the grades on my elevation, so
Right.
you could see
And
what that was happening there.
I think that was sent to you in the last day or so. You may not have gotten to it yet, but
It was it wasn't emailed.
I think it was. But anyway, we'll resolve it between now and the next hearing.
Yeah.
We've got time. All right. Staying with the building, and what materials will the building be constructed of?
Basically, the last building that we worked with, it's hardy board, it's a cultured stone, metal roofing, and asphalt roofing. We're trying to keep it a nice-looking building,
Okay.
maintenance-free as possible.
Okay, and the cultured stone will be along Hamilton Street and also as it wraps around the sides on Home Street and Ambrose, is that correct?
That's correct. You can see how far it goes in this rendering here. Once these are the apartments, this is the commercial. So the commercial area is where all that cultured stone's going to be.
Okay, and there is going to be a break where there is an entrance to the parking before you hit the apartments that are on the lower level, both on Ambrose and on Home Street, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, now, your plan, your colored rendering shows basically a tannish color and the stone basically of a natural color. I assume we're going to stay with that color pattern that's depicted on the plans?
That's why we put it in color.
Okay. And the mechanicals for the building, where are they?
They're all contained within inside the building.
Okay. There's no mechanicals on the roof, there's no mechanicals on pads outside of the building, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. The commercial spaces will have their own mechanicals that will service them?
That's correct.
Okay. And as far as the size of the residential units, you mentioned that the flats or studios are approximately 500 and some square feet. How big are the 1- and 2-bedroom units? And are they all the same, or do they vary somewhat?
They vary with the design of the building. We kind of had to come up with a couple different units that we could piece together like a jigsaw puzzle into the footprint. Generally speaking, your 2-bedroom units are about 915 square feet. Your single-bedroom units or your flats are around 500, and your single-bedroom are usually around 600 square feet. So the biggest one is 900 square feet. It's not very big.
Okay. And in discussing it with Mr. Pavasic, who's the applicant, the target market, when you design this project and these units, or what was your target market?
Target market is student housing.
Okay. And have you worked with Mr. Pavasic on other projects and developed similar type units and similar type projects?
Yes, we did one in New Brunswick, Phase 2. I've also worked on a number of projects in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania and New Jersey.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have no further questions of this witness.
Is there any storage set aside for residents?
The storage would be within their units, closets. My daughter just graduated Temple, so I know I've just been through all this. They really don't have a whole lot of space, and they don't take a whole lot of stuff until they bring them home, and you find out how much stuff they actually have.
Any other questions?
Well, I mean, so you're presenting this testimony tonight, and you're going to come back at some point later?
We're coming back either, December or January, depending on when Vince tells us to come back with the engineer, if there are any other architectural questions.
The reason I'm asking that is there are, I have a number of comments, some of which are comments of, that go to the architect. We know engineering has a number of comments. Are you intending to revise the plans before you come back? So I'm just wondering if that's the plan, then, maybe we just wait until the next meeting, or should we just go through all of them now? Some of these might be revised by, or addressed by revised plans.
Let me see when we did the last review.
I'll give you an example. One of my questions is the clearance for the the entrance into the garage. It looks like it's only like 6 feet. Is that sufficient? Should we be going over that now, or your professional is going to look into that and address that on revised plans?
We were going to address all of the staff comments at one time. We made a last revision in October. It was not our intent to revise the plans again, but we were going to address all of the staff reports. If you want to address your staff report comments to the architect this evening, fine. I just wanted to get at least an overview in. Otherwise, I can have him back to answer all the staff comments when we come back. And I think it's probably easier because some of your comments and some of the engineering comments overlap. So rather than
You're gonna bring him back. So
if you want, we'll bring him back if we need to bring him back.
I guess I'm coming back.
I just wanted to ask, I do have a series of questions of the architect, and it's already 9:30. I don't know if we want to get into that now, or if we're going to.
Mike, if you want to ask them, at least ask away and
All right, well, let's, I'll go through. And I'll try to pinpoint only the ones that I think may address the architect. Have you discussed with your client the opportunity for shared parking between the residential and the commercial tenants? Is the parking intended totally for the residential tenants, or is there going to be some, during the day, some sharing of the parking and
It was
availability?
my understanding that it was going to be shared.
Okay, so maybe that's something for another.
For next meeting, we'll
Okay.
discuss that.
Well, I had mentioned the roof clearance, and I think that's maybe perhaps an architect comment or thing. I looked at it, and it looks like there's only about 6 feet of clearance for the, if you look at, I think maybe the other rendering on other side street. Maybe that's something you need to look into and get back.
Shows it better than my
Yeah, see the one towards the left.
That goes down.
Yeah, I know that goes down, but between the street and the actual opening, it only goes down about a foot. And then, looking at the architecturals, okay, so I think that's something you need to look into
Yeah,
between
we're
now
aware
and
of
the
that.
next meeting, because it looks like it's pretty tight. Again, I don't know, normally I would ask this of the engineer, but since the building affects this, I'm going to ask you. How is trash collection and storage and collection going to work?
Actually, that would be the engineer also.
Okay. I mean, normally, again, I would ask
Yeah.
of the engineer, but since the actual building design, going under the tunnel,
In the last application we did in New Brunswick, which was similar, no commercial, but the trash and pickup was all handled through the engineer. And it was testimony that they have certain days they come and they pick it up and they have an area for it.
all right, so I guess we'll hear
Yeah.
about that at the next meeting. And I guess the same thing's going to apply for loading for the retail uses, how that's going to occur.
We'll, the other-
Okay. One of the comments I had, I think it's, in my personal opinion, I think it's a very attractive building, particularly along Hamilton Street and then wrapping around the sides. The one comment, set of comments that I do have on the architecture is really the rear of the building. The design standards basically say you have to have the same level of care and treatment around all four sides. When I look at the rear, kind of the embellishments and the details and the use of different materials kind of goes away on that rear elevation.
I can address it. We can dress the back up. It's not a problem.
Okay, so perhaps in December you can present a revised exhibit to show how you're going to comply with that or address that. Also, if you could take note of my comments 7 and 8. There's actually, in terms of, the first question is about how building mounted signage is going to be illuminated. So if you could look into that and get back, and also the amount of building mounted signage, you're allowed to actually have more signage and larger signage than you're depicting. So you may want to look into that. Your tenant can actually have a little bit larger signs.
I'd rather not see larger signs, but
Well, I'm not saying, believe me, they're not large, but you have very small signs.
I'm sure that
Allowed to have
whatever,
signs that are larger, but still very much in scale to the building. And if you have, and you can also have signage wrapping around the side streets to some degree. So if you have the retail frontage on Home and Ambrose, you may want to look into that. I would think you may want to have that for people driving up and down Hamilton Street to have some signage facing the side streets.
I think any
Yeah,
signage we would do would be in accordance with the ordinance.
Yeah, so I'd suggest you look into that and incorporate that into your architectural design. That's basically it. So I guess we'll hear, those are my architectural-related comments. I guess we'll hear the responses.
Can I ask you to do me a favor, too?
Sure.
Because you referenced comments 7 and 8, and in the report that I have, stops at 5, so perhaps tomorrow you can,
Stops at 5?
perhaps you can resend me your report?
You don't have the revised report. What's the date?
I have one.
Uh,
You only print it
dated
one page.
November.
Are you hacking my computer? It's dated November 6th.
Then your staff did not provide me with that
Well,
report.
we will get that to you.
Okay.
It's got 20 comments.
How many pages?
It's got 20 comments.
20?
20 comments.
Oh, my God.
Got a lot.
All right.
They're thorough, come on.
Yeah, no, and that's why I said tonight, we only just wanted to introduce this, and I'm glad Mark brought some of these issues up and any other questions that the board may have. The rest of the team will come in December, and hopefully, we will be able to address all of the comments, especially when I have them in front of me.
One more question. The only entrance to the first floor apartments is from under the tunnel. There's only one way in and out of those first floor apartments. If you go to your floor plans, you'll see that. I didn't see any even secondary emergency access, so just the question is that even code compliant? And it affects your overall, I normally wouldn't ask a question like that, but the answer to that may affect your overall design.
The entrance is here and the emergency access is there.
Okay, is
Yeah.
there actually a door on the
Yes.
plans there? Okay, all right.
I'll make that clear.
It wasn't clear, okay, thank you.
I'll make it much clearer. I'm a volunteer fireman. I'm all into safety.
I just saw that, I'm like, I don't know much about, I don't look at code issues like that, but one way in and out I know is not,
For the size of the ground level, we could get away with one.
really, okay.
So is the rear facade so blank because you have stairwells there?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, you have apartments facing the rear.
there, but it's like, I'm sorry. I'll make this much clearer. There are apartments there, but because it was the back of the building, I didn't really dress it up as much, but I'll make that much nicer.
Okay.
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay. We'll also note that there is no public to open the.
There
for
isn't.
witness, so. Anything we need to do?
Unless any other board member have any questions, I would ask that at this juncture, we adjourn this matter to your December 17th.
You want to do it to the 17th, we'll adjourn it to that date in case the other stuff kicks off, because we have some other stuff scheduled that's been in flux for months, so.
I understand that.
If they're coming, they get first dibs, and we'll know a week or so before.
And if they're coming, we won't come, and we'll come to your first meeting in January, because I would like to
Yes.
keep it, to have one meeting and,
Yes.
again, try to get everything done in one
But we'll
night.
carry it to the December 17th date in case,
Okay.
without further public notice.
Thank you.
Anything you want to announce?
There will be no meeting now until December 17th. That'll be the next meeting. December 3rd will be canceled.